Every human who has ever lived has died. Kings, emperors, billionaires, every single one. We've spent thousands of years chasing immortality, and we've gotten nowhere. But here's what's going to bother you. The ocean figured it out a long time ago. Right now, swimming in every ocean on this planet are creatures that are 200, 400, 500 years old. And then there's one, a tiny, almost invisible jellyfish that has done something no other animal on Earth can do. It has reversed its own death. Not once, not twice, potentially forever. We start with something familiar, a mammal, something that breathes air, has warm blood, and gives birth to live young, just like us. The bowhead whale lives in the Arctic. It grows up to 60 feet long and weighs 100 tons, and it can live for more than 200 years. That makes it the longest living mammal on Earth, by a huge margin. The oldest known bowhead was estimated at 211 years old. It was swimming under Arctic ice while the French Revolution was tearing Paris apart. So how does something with trillions of cells, far more than a human, avoid cancer for 2 centuries? That's the real mystery. Because the more cells you have, the more chances for one to go rogue. It's called Peto's paradox. Whales should be riddled with tumors. They're not. In 2025, researchers found the answer. Bowhead whale cells produce unusually high levels of a protein called cold-inducible RNA binding protein. This protein supercharges DNA repair. It finds broken strands of genetic code and fixes them with stunning efficiency. When scientists engineered fruit flies to produce the same protein, those flies lived longer too. Bowhead whales also carry a duplicate copy of a gene called CDKN2C, which slows cell division. Slower division means more time for the cell to check its own DNA for errors before copying itself. It's like having an extra proofreader built into every cell in your body. 200 years. Not from some exotic trick, just from being exceptionally good at the basics, fixing what's broken before it becomes a problem. But 200 years is just where this list begins. Deep beneath the Arctic Ocean, where sunlight never reaches and the water hovers just above freezing, something ancient is moving. Slowly, almost imperceptibly. The Greenland shark. Over 6 meters long, nearly blind. Most of them have parasites permanently latched onto their eyes. They swim at under 3 kilometers per hour, top speed. They are the slowest sharks on Earth, and possibly the oldest vertebrates alive. In 2016, marine biologist Julius Nielsen published a study that changed everything we knew about animal lifespans. His team used radiocarbon dating on the eye lenses of 28 female Greenland sharks. See, the proteins in a shark's eye lens form before birth and never get replaced, like a biological time capsule sealed the moment the animal is born. By measuring carbon-14 levels in those proteins and using the radioactive spike from 1950s nuclear bomb tests as a reference point, Nielsen could estimate when each shark was born. The largest female, 5 meters long, came back with an estimated age of 392 years. Even on the low end, that's 272 years. And she doesn't even reach sexual maturity until about 150. Think about that. 150 years old before she can reproduce. Why so long? Cold water, slow metabolism. Their body temperature barely rises above the water around them, which means their cells produce fewer of the damaging byproducts that accelerate aging in warm-blooded animals.
A 2024 study found Greenland shark enzyme activity doesn't change between a 60-year-old specimen and a 200-year-old one. Their metabolism simply doesn't degrade over time. They live slow, and they live very long.
Now we meet an animal that doesn't look like much. A clam. A brown, unremarkable clam sitting on the Atlantic seafloor, the ocean quahog. But this clam held the Guinness World Record for the oldest individual animal ever discovered. In 2006, researchers dredging the seafloor off Iceland pulled up a clam and froze it, standard procedure. Back in the lab, they opened the shell and counted growth rings, like tree rings. The number, 507 years. This clam was born in 1499. The Ming Dynasty was ruling China, which is how it got its name, Ming. And the scientists killed it by opening its shell to count the rings. They killed the oldest known animal on Earth trying to figure out how old it was. Ocean quahogs burrow into the seafloor and just exist. Low metabolism, low stress, low exposure to predators, quietly, for centuries. The question nobody can answer, how many older quahogs are still down there, buried in the mud, that we just haven't pulled up yet?
Here's where things get strange, because lobsters don't just live a long time. Their cells are, in a very real biological sense, immortal. You probably heard the internet claim that lobsters are immortal. It's everywhere, and it's wrong. But the truth is actually more interesting than the myth. Here's what lobsters actually have. In every organ, every tissue, every cell in their body, lobsters produce an enzyme called telomerase, and that's a big deal. Quick biology lesson. Every time one of your cells divides, the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes, called telomeres, get a tiny bit shorter. Think of them like plastic tips on shoelaces. Every division wears them down a little more. Eventually, they're gone. The chromosome stops dividing properly, and you age. Lobsters don't have this problem. Telomerase rebuilds those caps after every division. Their cells can divide indefinitely without deteriorating. No telomere shortening, no cellular aging. In theory, a lobster's cells could keep going forever. But why aren't the oceans full of 1,000-year-old lobsters the size of cars? Because of their shells. Lobsters grow by molting, shedding their entire exoskeleton and growing a new, larger one. And as they get bigger, molting requires exponentially more energy. Eventually, the animal simply can't produce enough energy to shed its shell. It dies from exhaustion mid-molt. Or the old shell gets infected, or the new shell doesn't harden properly and the animal is eaten. Immortal cells, trapped inside a mortal body. It's like having the engine of a sports car bolted into a frame that's rusting apart. The oldest known lobster was estimated as around 140 years old, which is remarkable, but a fraction of what their cellular machinery could theoretically sustain.
Now we leave individual lifespans behind and enter a different category of time. Off the coast of Hawaii, 300 to 500 meters below the surface, something has been growing in the darkness for over 4,000 years. Black coral. Despite the name, it's not black on the outside. It looks golden brown, tree-like, reaching into the current. The black refers to its skeleton hidden underneath. Radiocarbon dating put the oldest specimen at 4,265 years. 4,000 years. When this coral started growing, the Great Pyramid of Giza was already 300 years old. Stonehenge was still in active use. The entire span of recorded human history, every empire, every war, every invention has happened during this single organism's lifetime. Its skeleton grows at just 4 micrometers per year,
the width of a single red blood cell. It's the closest thing to a living geological record.
But if black coral stretched your sense of time, this one is going to break it. In the freezing waters around Antarctica, attached to the seafloor at depths of over 100 meters, lives the giant volcano sponge. And it may be 15,000 years old. That's not a typo. 15,000 years. This sponge was alive during the last ice age. Woolly mammoths still roamed the northern hemisphere. Humans hadn't invented agriculture yet. The cave painters of Lascaux were still at work in France. How do we know? One specimen showed zero measurable growth over a 10-year observation period. Zero. At that rate, the math points to lifespans in the tens of thousands of years. Glass sponges are strange animals. No nervous system, no digestive tract, no front or back. Their skeletons are made of silica, actual glass fused into lattice patterns that can channel light like fiber optic cables. They just sit on the sea floor in near freezing water and exist decade after decade for longer than human civilization has been around. But even 15,000 years has a ceiling. This sponge will eventually die. The creature at the top of our list doesn't have that problem.
Turritopsis dohrnii, less than 5 millimeters across, smaller than your pinky fingernail, transparent, drifting through every ocean on Earth. And it is, as far as science can determine, the only animal that has truly defeated aging. Every other creature on this list eventually dies. The immortal jellyfish doesn't have to. Here's how. When Turritopsis is stressed, injured, starving, aging, it does something that violates everything we understand about animal biology. It collapses. Its bell folds in on itself. The tentacles are reabsorbed. It transforms into a blob-like cyst that sinks to the sea floor. And then that cyst becomes a polyp, a juvenile, the previous life stage. A butterfly turning back into a caterpillar and then becoming a butterfly again, ready to grow, mature, reproduce, and, if threatened, rewind and start over again and again. The process is called transdifferentiation. Adult cells completely reprogram themselves into entirely different cell types. Muscle cells become nerve cells. Nerve cells become reproductive cells. The animal rebuilds itself from scratch using its own existing cells. Of course, there's a catch. Immortality doesn't mean invincibility. Sea turtles eat them. Sea slugs eat them. Fish eat them. They just need to never permanently die. And right now, researchers are studying the genes behind transdifferentiation, because if we can understand how a 5-millimeter jellyfish reprograms its own cells, we might unlock something that changes human medicine forever.